podcast. I'm your host, Jack McLean, and today I'll be going over the 2022 year from a podcasting point of view, but also an update and reflection on our key learnings, specifically on my professional development, the coaches that we've brought on, the new services that we're now providing, both at football clubs at a community level, but also for the wider Propelica Pro community that are hungry for information via our academy, the Coaches Academy, and as well as the Footballers Academy. But also I want to start by thanking every one of our listeners. I was recently looking at the Spotify Wrapped for the year, and for anyone that hasn't done that yet that's got a Spotify account, highly recommend giving it a check out, because it's pretty awesome to see what Spotify have done in terms of putting the presentation and together. It's very interactive and engaging, and it's awesome to see for those that love data. It's awesome to see the numbers for those that are podcast hosts, but also if you're an avid listener, both from a music point of view and podcast, you get to see your trends for the year. So highly recommend it. And we've got some special giveaways as it's our first year on the Spotify platform. We had 77 Spotify followers that Prepare Like a Pro podcast ranked number one on their rankings. So for all of you, if you're listening and you're one of those 77, check out your yearly wrap in the Spotify, and if you can screenshot that Prepare Like a Pro is ranking number one for 2022, direct message to me on any of our socials or email me at jack@preparelikeapro.com, and I'll give you a special prize. So worth high amount of value for those first listeners. But not only that, for our top five, so if we rank in the top five, which we had 373 of our followers Prepare Like a Pro podcast ranked in their top five, I'll also be providing a special prize. And on top of that, for those that we ranked top 10 of your favorite podcasts, which there were 688, I'll also offer a prize. So obviously, really grateful for the fact that all our listeners are enjoying the podcast, and there's a lot of positive feedback. But to be able to see some objective markers is hugely motivating for me, and definitely something that I'll be looking over the festive season, where we're having a bit of a break for 3 weeks, where I won't be hosting any live interviews. It'll be a really good time to let the dust settle and look at the numbers and see what episodes, which I'll release shortly, our top 10 most engaging episodes for 2022 by the listener, which will ultimately influence my invitations for those that we'll have on the podcast next year. And it was a nice range of guests from all walks of life. So I think having a wide spread of AFL as well as high performance staff from different domains, whether it be psychology, nutrition, strength and conditioning, physical preparation, but also the coaching tactical side, and then of course the science side as well. So there was each guest came from those different categories, and really looking forward to continuing to reach out to guests in that area. Today I'll also be reflecting on some professional developments that I've made personally, both from a strength and conditioning point of view in my career, but also for Prepare Like a Pro. So I'll touch on that shortly. I'll also talk about, like I mentioned, some key lessons to share for business owners that are looking to start up their business, or perhaps have currently started up their business and they want to create a scalable business. That's something I'll be sharing some information on, and also some personal updates as well. It's been a massive year. Obviously, daughter being born 10 weeks ago, day after AFL Grand Final day, being a first home buyer, as well as amongst a couple other changes. So really looking forward to sharing all that, but we'll get straight into it. So we'll start with the top 10, and this episode where we'll be sharing, we did it last year, and it's our second most engaged episode for 2021 is from 2022, the 2021 top 10 episodes. So what we do is we compile our top 10 most listened episodes, and we provide a snippet, so like the highlights, like about 6 to 10 minutes from each guest, and put it together in one episode. So we're going to release that on Monday, the 26th of December, but I want to announce those top 10 for you all. So ranking at number 1 is Kevin Ball, who's a biomechanist and sports scientist. I was lucky enough to be lectured by Kevin when I was doing my Bachelor of Sports Science at Victoria University. He's a real AFL kicking expert, working at a couple of football clubs, as well as consulting in rugby league and rugby union teams. So make sure, if you haven't listened to that one, that's our number 1 ranking episode from the listeners for 2022. So congratulations, Kevin. Robert Augie came in at number 2. So he's another scientist, and absolutely engaging episode, particularly the work that himself and Fabio and colleagues have been doing with the World Cup, and taking objective markers in terms of movement to another level, from currently looking at the GPS, but actually looking at their visual movement patterns. So from a tactical point of view, that's something that has been implemented in the World Cup. So if you're interested in that high-tech, advanced technology that's just been rolled out from Robert, make sure to listen to the Robert Augie episode. Number 3, Luke Meehan, who at the time was the strength and power coach at the Richmond Football Club. He's worked in the AFL for over 15 years, and actually now is the high performance manager of the Richmond Football Club. So he's come in at rank number 3. He's actually become a good friend, catch up with him for coffee and really enjoy our chat. So if you haven't listened already to Luke, he's got a huge amount of experience in not only elite sport, but also in all the different roles that you can do in the AFL from a strength and conditioning point of view. So for any strength and conditioning coaches, physical preparation coaches, as well as rehab coaches, make sure to tune into that episode. Number 4 comes in at Jackie Lauder, who's a sports psychologist at the Collingwood Football Club. And that episode was hugely informative around not only mental health, but mainly around mental performance, and some tips and tricks that you can do to enhance your mental performance. So for athletes, highly recommend listening into that one. Number 5 is JB Marin. For anyone that wants to improve their speed, or for coaches that want to improve your coaching ability and learn the most update research, practical and how to apply that research, make sure to listen into episode number 5 for our most listened 2022 episode with JB Marin. Number 6 is with Aaron Kellett. He is the high performance manager of the Australian cricket team. So it was really good to have someone who's a real expert in management and leadership. And we discuss how they differ between management skills to leadership skills. So if you're in any sort of managerial role, or you hope to be in one of those, and you see yourself as a leader, make sure to listen in to Aaron Kellett's episode. Number 7, Pip Taylor, who's a dietitian. She's worked in the AFL as a sports dietitian, and now she's a consultant running her own business. So make sure to check out her episode. She provided some practical tips, as well as some important information for athletes to understand, to make sure they've got a healthy relationship with their food. Number 8 is with Tim Parham, who's one of the most experienced reconditioning coaches in Australia. And he really broke that down, his philosophy that he's learned with his time at working in the AFL at Port Adelaide. He's now at the Adelaide Crows, but also his time at Arsenal Football Club. So if you're really interested in improving your reconditioning rehabilitation skill set and learning from one of the best, make sure to listen to Tim Parham's episode. Number 9, which is a really recent one, Jared Wade, and he is the high performance manager of the Collingwood Football Club. And obviously Collingwood had such an amazing year in terms of development in 2022. So, and a big part of that was their being able to run out games and their fitness. And Jared talked a fair bit about his training philosophy in terms of you don't need to feel good to train good, and where that all came from. So he's worked, like Luke Meehan, he's worked in a range of different roles, from sports science, rehabilitation, not only in AFL, but also has worked in rugby as well. So if you're interested in high performance, make sure to tune in to Jared Wade's episode. And then number 10, to round out our top 10 for 2022, is with Will Hams, who's a retired Australian rules football player. I worked with Will Hams at Box Hill Hawks, absolute gun of a player. And then he's also doing big things now in the wellness space. So working with schools and community football teams. So if you're interested in startups, make sure to tune into Will's episode. He's also got a great story from his background in how he got into to get drafted and the hard work he did while he was drafted, being at the Essendon Football Club, and then what he's now doing from a business point of view. So that's our top 10 for 2022. Thank you for everyone that's tuned in. And if you haven't listened to those episodes, highly recommend them. And like I mentioned, on the 26th of December, we'll release a special episode dedicated to those guests. So from a professional point of view, so reflecting back over the last year, it's been a massive year for me. As most of you listeners, you're probably well aware that I was working at Hawthorn Football Club a couple of years ago and was part of the development team, which that role was stood down. I then had a year out of sport in 2021, working at Edge. And after that year, I took on a part-time role, which I started this time last year. So in 2021 in December, where I was part-time at the Melbourne Football Club, assisting the Strength and Power program, working with the young players in the AFL program, and then managing the VFL strength and conditioning program at night time. Absolutely love that role. Also love my role at Iron Edge, where we were working with community-based footballers. It was like similar to a Body Fit F45 model, but it was more tailored to you, leaning on strength and conditioning principles and methods. And it was great to work with guys like James Russell and Hal Marsden, as well as the other coaches, Jess and James. And Victor. We had a great team there. I basically left Iron Edge, moved into the Melbourne Football Club part-time, spent a fair bit of time working one-on-one with Prepare Like a Pro athletes. And then fast forward to now, I was lucky enough to get bumped up in a full-time role at Melbourne Footy Club, where I'm now the strength and rehab coach. So no longer involved in the Casey Demons. It's a full-time role with the AFL program, which I'm hugely grateful for, absolutely loving the role. And enjoying working with the likes of Selwyn Griffith more closely, Dan James, Kathleen Sarkadian, who we're working together in the rehab space. She's a physiotherapist, so we're working really closely in managing the players from a reconditioning point of view. And absolutely loving to continue working as well with Dave Regan, who's the head strength and power coach at Melbourne Footy Club. So really lucky in terms of a development from a professional point to work with these experts, but not only experts in what they do, but really great people that have similar values to me. So I'm really enjoying my time at Melbourne Footy Club and happy to be there full time now. And what that meant for Prepare Like a Pro is I've stepped back from no longer working with athletes in a one-on-one setting, where I was doing about 10 sessions a week when I was part-time. I now want to solely focus all my time and energy with Melbourne. And I wouldn't think it would be fair to take on clients, as I would be distracted if I was working in a one-on-one setting at this time, as there's a fair bit going on in rehab. So what I've done is I've brought on a few new coaches to our team, and I set up Prepare Like a Pro to be scalable for me to one day get another full-time role in elite sport. So it was a pretty easy transition, and it was really great to bring on the likes of Caleb Morgan, who has had a great experience at Western Bulldogs, working across VFL men and women, AFL men and women. So it's great to have Caleb on. He's got some experience over in America as well, which is good to lean on from an athlete development point of view. So for anyone that wants to work and lives in the Western suburbs and you want to improve your field-based conditioning, absolutely hit us up to work with Caleb. Dylan Vazari's continued to work with us. So he's been our longest lasting coach. He's based in Box Hill. We brought on James Wolfenden, who's based in Paran, and he's also working. I met him at Edge training, and he's currently working at the Carlton Football Club as well. And then Jordan Love is also based in the Sports Clinic, which is based in Paran. He's doing a bit of work out of a gym in Bentley as well with our athletes. And he's currently come over and is a strength and conditioning coach with the Casey Demons and helping out, volunteering his time at the Melbourne Footy Club, which is fantastic. He spent 2 days with us for the first time this week, and no doubt he's going to spend a hell of a lot more time with us in the new year. So really thankful to have such a strong team join us. We've continued with Nilesh Murthy as well, who's been at GWS Giants for over 10 years. He's now also head physio at Newcastle Knights in rugby. So he's looked after a lot of our rehab athletes, and then Geordie Seller as well as looking after athletes based in Adelaide. And then we have Beatrice Devlin as well, who's moved from Perth over to Adelaide. So a really strong team. Ben Frith has been looking after athletes based in Cranbourne area. He's got a great experience, like Caleb, in working at the St Kilda Football Club across men's and women's in VFL and AFL. So if you're based in that area, he's looking after a couple of our athletes, preparing them over their off season and doing a great job. So if you're interested in working with us, although I'm not taking on one-on-one clients, we have an awesome team of AFL experienced strength and conditioning coaches that hopefully live close to you. And if they don't, we will provide you with the best program possible and then do our coaching remotely over the phone and doing Zoom consultations. So we can work with athletes all over the country, and we currently are as well. So want to thank everyone for being involved. Absolutely. Thank you for the work that you've done this year, and really looking forward to next year, as it's been a fantastic year. Come draft time, I will have time off. So every October, November, I will help those trying to get drafted, as I've worked with guys like Michael Oakes and Brett Deledio, player agents, and looking after their athletes to help them test well. So I'm really looking forward to continuing that work, and I will continue to work face-to-face over in the off-season, as my time at Melbourne Football Club will be on break during that time. So that's where I will be working one-on-one only with athletes trying to get drafted, to ensure that to maximize their progress. So that's something I'm looking forward to doing every year and continue doing. So that's from a coaching team point of view, and also an update in terms of Melbourne Football Club. We also brought on our 2 new streams this year, and that is the Academy. So we have a membership now with Prepare Like a Pro. So if you're a coach, it's only $20 a month, and you get access to our full database of memberships, as well as any courses that we've done. So if you look at some of them are on sale on our website, on our shop, you get access to all of those plus more. So on a monthly basis, I catch up with all the coaches for a Get Better plan. Those are all recorded, and they have been for the last 2 years, so they live in there, as well as there's a discussion forum, so you can post any questions. And every week on Thursday, I provide a weekly update, just like I'm doing now. And there's a special recording that doesn't go to our podcast, public podcast, but goes exclusive to our Academy, and I answer any questions over the film to our Academy members. So if that's something that interests you, it's something that I'm putting a lot of energy into for 2022. So make sure to head over to preparelikeaproacademy.com.au for more information. And we also are going to continue our online program. So we have a gainers program for those that want to gain muscle mass. We have a development program for those that are young and are new to strength and conditioning. And we have a strength and power program for those that are looking to maximize their athleticism to help their football performance. So if that's something that interests you, it's something I've been doing for the last couple of years. I've rolled out, so it's periodized to suit a footballer's schedule, both whether you're in season, pre-season, or off season. And I make sure the loading is specific to a footballer, but also I'm constantly refining the rep schemes, the sets, and also the exercises to make sure it's the absolute best program in the country for Australian rules footballers, both from a developing, but also those mature. So if you're interested, that's only $99 a month, and that price will remain the same for 2022. You can also get a 2-week free trial where you get access to our Academy membership for footballers, as well as the program for 2 weeks for free. So give it a shot. And if it's not for you, you can leave it there. If it is for you, you can continue on that program. So that's our Academy. We also continued our local football club service, where for $4,000, we provide 30 athletes on our Team Builder program. They get access to those programs that I talked about, the gainers, development, and strength and power. They also get a prescription program where I've laid out a whole pre-season of session plans to include your how to use your 2K time trial to prescribe running groups, how to host repeat speed sessions, sprint sessions, agility work to do in the post warm-up, as well as some grueling big sessions that can help you get a competitive edge against your opponents. So if that's something that interests you, all you need to do is join before the season starts, and you get access to our preseason database as well as the online program for 30 athletes. So your whole senior men's or women's squad. So currently we have the Caulfield Grammarians, both senior men's and women's. We have Glenorchy Football Club at the State League in Tasmania, their men's program. We've got Knox Football Club men's and women's program, and Heathmont men's program, and the Way Tacoma men's program. So great to have them all for 2021, and as well as bringing in Knox and Heathmont for 2022. So all the clubs were happy enough to continue in that program for 2022, which is great feedback for the coaches that ran those programs, as well as good feedback for myself, who's been writing the programs for those community-based clubs. So we're going to continue that, and it's really good to be able to work with community-based footballers and hopefully provide them as close as possible to an AFL standard strength and conditioning program. So if that's something that interests you, you can still join and sign up your club, whether you're a player or a staff member you think would be interested of your club, and they can budget for $4,000. That's for preseason and in season, which seems to be the budget for most local clubs. I wanted to make sure that it was something that was accessible for any club, both with, if that's for the men's program or the women's, or if you want the two, then it would be $8,000 for the year. You also get a strength and conditioning coach dedicated to your team to run those sessions, who I mentor. So if it gives the coaches a bit of a chop out, you don't have to run, the coaches don't have to run the warm-ups, the run blocks. They get they can have time to actually watch how the players are moving, as well as prepare their football drills while they're doing the running and the warm-up. So if that interests you, hit me up at jack@propellikeapro.com. It'd be great to have your football club on board for season 2023. Big lessons for this year. There was a huge amount. I'm constantly learning in this business space, particularly not just having a face-to-face business, but an online educational platform. So the big ones for me, number one, provide value over constantly just selling and marketing your product. So for me, giving away heaps of education and providing a platform through the podcast to interview guests and share their knowledge. So for me, it's just providing as much value as I possibly can, even if I'm not getting financial reward for it. So that's where we do that on our socials. We do that with our newsletter, via blog posts on our website. So there's heaps out there for you, even if you don't have a budget to be able to spend. Hopefully you can check out our YouTube channel for exercise videos. So we want to make sure we keep providing the community with free content, and we'll continue to do so. Solve problems and answer questions. So that's something that I'm regularly asking our those on our program. I'm constantly writing notes. I'm Googling some common questions and then providing content specifically to those common questions. So yet again, to help our community of AFL footballers, but also for strength and conditioning coaches who want to work in elite sport. So if you have any questions, never hesitate, send them through a direct message, and I'll do my best to answer them in an upcoming platform. Have a consistent schedule. This is something that can take some time, but if you're interested in an online game, make sure you find a schedule that suits your work-life balance as well as your family. So for me, I've got an assistant that helps me with the socials. I stick to a podcast where we have a Monday weekly update. We have a Wednesday long form content with an interview. And then we have a Friday bite-sized episode from a previous old episode, just a 10, 15-minute clip. And we'll continue to stick with those. And then I was lucky enough to have Nicholas Kalgopoulos as a business mentor. It's the first time I've ever had a business coach. It was provided by the Victorian government over a grant, and I'm really lucky to have that as a resource. He's helped me massively on how to streamline my finances, as well as streamline my processes from customer relations and how to manage new leads, current paying clients, as well as our educational platform. So absolutely wrapped to have Nicholas on board, and that's been a huge amount of lesson, particularly around the business management side of things. And then the last one, from a productivity point of view, really reducing the amount you want to do in a day. Write down some key focus areas. So it might be filming your content would be on a set day, and then having a to-do list for over a month that you want to try, and that you've got a list that you can put a line through when you complete those. So rather than having a to-do list for every day and get overwhelmed when you don't complete it, you can achieve a lot in a month. But if you pile too much in one day, then it's not sustainable. So that's something that I've really resonated with me, and I've put in good practice where I'll have my monthly things that I need to get done. And then I'll focus on some key areas, theme-based days that work around, my personal life and my work at the Melbourne Football Club. So from a pro point of view, I find that is really effective to stick to my schedule. So that's been the key lessons on this note. I want to thank all my mentors and influencers this year, and they are Hal Marston. We work closely at the Edge Training. He was our high performance manager, and he had great experience at the Melbourne Storm. James Russell, who was our operational manager and one of the owners at Edge Training, learned heaps from these guys. As I mentioned, the whole Melbourne football high performance team. So Selwyn Griffith, Dave Regan, Brendan Eagleston, Dan James, Kathleen Sarkadian, Nick Murray, and Sam Joseph, Keith D'Souza. And then I was lucky enough to do some private work one-on-one with John Pryor, which I got a huge amount of information out, particularly learning that Franz Bosch methodology, the coordinative complex movements, and how to simplify that and make it effective for athletes. And then recently did a Bill Knowles course, professional development. So highly recommend learning off any of those guys if you're lucky enough to get the opportunity to. And then favorite courses for this year, I did a 30 days to a YouTube channel. I've done the ASCA Level 3, a 14-day filmmaker course, and I'm currently completing my Master's of Applied Sports Science at Deakin, and highly recommend all those courses. So if you're interested in doing any of them, check out those names on Google and you can find some more information. I'm more than happy to elaborate if there's any more information that you want to come from. That's it for this year. We have no more live interviews or weekly updates until Vern Gambetta on the January the 19th of 2023. Thank you so much again for all the listeners. And remember, if you are ranked #1 on Spotify or in our top 5 or your top 10 for the Prepare Like a Pro podcast, screenshot it, send through to me, and I'll give you a special prize. Thank you, everyone, again, and looking forward to sharing more information as well as getting to know you all a little bit more in 2023. Enjoy the festive season.